Hey, this is Mike Wilbanks. Listen to me on Herp Herp Hooray.
It says here we should work in teams. I tend to think of myself as a one-man wolf pack.
You're about to enter Information Overload, a worldwide transmission with Herp Herp Hooray's featured Breeder of the Week. Here's your host, Jason Rossi.
Episode of Herp Herp Hooray. I'm your host, Jason Rossi, where we're streaming live on herpherphooray.com. We have all the archives of all the past guests on Herp Herp Hooray. Go over there and check out the new forum we put together for you guys. We got classifieds over there, tear sheets, and more. We're even running a contest over there, so go on and check that out. We're also on iTunes. All right, guys, we have a treat for you this week. The featured breeder of the week is here, and they're here to talk the ball game with us. Mike Wilbanks from Constrictors Unlimited is this week's special guest. Mike, welcome to Herp Herp Hooray.
Hey, Jason, thanks a lot. I'm glad to be here.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your vacation and coming on here and talking with us on the road, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. On the way to Colorado to do a little snow skiing, and thought that'd be a good time to give you a call and do the show. I'm real happy to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate it, man. People really want to hear from you, hear what you got going on. So you got a DVD coming out?
Yeah, that's I'm not real sure when we're going to be ready with that. We've shot a ton of footage, and I'm probably too much of a perfectionist, and probably the longest thing that in that process is editing, and editing is going to take a long time. So when I feel like it's really perfect, I don't want to just slap something together and put it out and just try to cash in on something. I want people to really be blown away by what I put out. And so when I feel it's to that point, then we'll go ahead and start ripping them onto DVD and putting them out. But probably we're looking at the fall at this point. I was going to try to do it right before last fall, but kind of at the start of breeding season so that people could plug in the DVD, and hopefully it would give them some tips to help them be more productive. And so I think that's a good time to release, but we're probably looking at this coming fall now.
Awesome, man. Well, that's a great idea. Jeremy released his boa breeder video, and I was like, man, somebody needs to do a ball python one, so that's just perfect that you come out here and, share what you've learned and over the years. And, is that just going to be, breeding tips and tricks and, how-tos? Or is it going to have some, terminology in there, breaking it down to, easier terms for people to understand? Or what else we can expect in this DVD?
Well, Jeremy and I are good friends, and we discussed the concept together, right at the beginning when we were both filming it. We were talking about doing a series on YouTube and just releasing some of this stuff on YouTube, but then what we found out is as we were discussing that, we started saying, well, I don't really want to tell everyone that trick, and I don't really want to tell everyone about how we do this, and just because some of these tricks that we've learned over years and years of trial and error and making mistakes, and hey, what if we tried this and see if that would make the females more productive or make the males breed earlier. Those tricks were hard to come by, and so we started finding ourselves, as we were talking about doing different series on YouTube, wanting to hold back too much, and then we started saying, well, if I sold it, then I probably wouldn't mind telling everybody everything, and so that's kind of how that deal was born. And we had talked about doing it at the same time and releasing them together and doing kind of a package deal. and then I fell behind on the deal and didn't get my editing done, and he just powered through it. He told me that the editing was just so hard. I mean, like a lot of hours of work, but he was able to get it all done, and he put out a great product. I think his deal is really good, but so we're going to be a year behind him, but at some point in the future, we'll probably do, offer them as some kind of a package and market them together, because I think it would be good for people. A lot of people keep, both species, and it would be good for people to get it as a package.
A double DVD combo. Yeah, I can't go wrong there.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Jeremy has so many years of experience with boas that, I think he really has a lot to offer with his DVD, because boas for sure can be a trickier species. I know I've struggled with them, and it does help to have somebody, sharing their knowledge with you. Ball pythons are a bit easier, I think, but I have some things that I do that I know that most of the other big breeders don't do, and some things that we've discovered over the years that will help you produce more clutches and help you get more clutches out of each male and help you get your males to go earlier, and lots of really valuable things that we do to make you more productive. So definitely, whatever the price of the DVD is, it's gonna pay for itself easily in more production.
So can we expect some, like, what to do, like how to select a project and how to market yourself and that sort of information as well?
Yeah, for sure. That was one of the things that I thought I really wanted to include. That's why I'm calling it the ball game. That's what the project's called, because it's not going to just cover how to produce ball pythons, but it's going to cover a lot of marketing, sales, different ways to get your name out above other people's names. I mean, in the ball python field, it's so crowded that it is really important to market yourself well to where you can kind of make yourself stand out, against all that competition.
Well, that would be a wealth of knowledge. Just, like you said, the price of the DVD, that's nothing compared to what you'll be gaining. So we'll be on the lookout for that, Mike.
Yeah, I can't wait for people to see it. I think it's going to be really great.
I know it is, because I love your YouTube videos, man. I look forward to them when they come out, and it's just, just waiting for those Constrictors Unlimited videos to come out on YouTube. I know you're a busy guy, so it must be tough to, juggle all those things you have to do, handling the business, and then trying to do YouTube videos as well, and traveling. And
yeah, and to come up with concepts for the YouTube videos is kind of difficult, too, because I don't want to just, put out something saying, oh, here's this morph or whatever. We try to do something a little bit different, and so that's and then once we decide on a concept, getting to make ourselves do the filming and editing and all that stuff. I don't see how Brian does it. He's doing that show every week, and I imagine that just takes up a good portion of his week every week.
Yeah, that's a TV show, too, so there's a whole bunch of more extras to take care of.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I believe it was like How Things Work over here at Constrictors Unlimited video. I saw how you guys are just throwing rats in the bin, boom, 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 frozen thaw. And I was like, like my corn snake eats it like that. Boas will eat it like that. So why wouldn't balls eat it just like that? So, I tried it with a few of my girls, and sure as they did it, man. It was like a helpful hit right there, just seeing that real quick tidbit in the beginning of the video, is, priceless.
Yeah, and we had a big problem this year getting enough live rodents, and so we did have to go to a lot of frozen thawed. I prefer to feed live, but it's just been extremely difficult to get enough rodents this year.
The rodent shortage, supply and demand.
Yep, nationwide rodent shortage this year.
So do you breed your own, or do you just buy?
We breed a few. I'm actually building a new rodent facility, so we're going to probably be able to be self-sufficient. Maybe not this year, but maybe starting next year. Mostly I buy from a few different breeders. You know, there's a couple in a couple of the surrounding states that we're able to buy from that supplement us, especially in the summer. You know, we have so many babies on the ground. You know, we're going through 4,000 or 5,000 rat fuzzies a week. So that's a very difficult number to produce. You know, unless you have a really big rodent facility, and that's what we're working on now.
Now, when you're feeding that many a week, now isn't that just going to make sense to produce your own, and that's going to pay itself back how many times over? I mean, are you going to see that return on that?
I don't know. In the past, I've resisted that a little bit because I love snakes, and I love keeping and just every aspect of raising snakes, but rats is not my favorite thing to do, and I never really wanted to make that something that took a lot of my time. But just out of necessity, just because in the past, you know, we could spend the money and have a big rodent bill, and that was just part of the cost of doing business. But this year, it was no matter how much we paid, we just couldn't get enough. So it was very difficult to keep up with that. And if you're supplementing with frozen thawed, then there's a lot of time involved, you know, especially with baby ball pythons. You know, cheese feeding each baby ball python can take a lot of time. But so I'm not doing it for the cost savings. I think there will be some money saved in the process, but mostly I'm doing it just because just so I have a supply and I'm not really beholden to anybody else as far as them deciding how many rodents I get and that kind of thing. Because I like to, when I'm selling somebody a ball python, I like for it to be a nice fat baby. You know, I'm not one of these people that kind of maintenance feeds. I'll put some weight on them, and so if you get a baby from me that was hatched in, you know, June, and you get it from me in September, you know, it's going to be on track to breed that year. I know a lot of guys will kind of hold them back because they don't want people to be able to just, have a chance to breed it the same year, but that's never been my philosophy. And I think that's really the key to the game is to allow your customers to have some success, because when I found that my best customers are the ones that produce, sell their animals, and then can use money that they've made from snakes to buy other morphs, buy other stuff they're interested in, you know, and they get to make the wife happy, and things just go better all the way around. I've never felt like it was to my advantage to have a customer buy snakes and then go away and be unproductive, and then me move on to the next customer. I think that's a poor strategy, you know, and not to mention, you know, it's just kind of sad when somebody spends their money on their dream and they're wanting to get in this business and then they're unsuccessful. I want to do anything I can do to help my customers be successful.
And that just says a lot right there. If you're not trying to hold somebody back from the jump, you know, like helping somebody along, you know, that they're just going to be grateful and come back, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think always those are the best customers. I mean, I have guys that have been buying from me for 10 years. You know, they've just continued. And a lot of what this business is networking, creating a group of friends that you buy from them, they buy from you, and, you know, you can trust each other as far as that they're going to give you a good animal that's feeding well, doing well. And so I have a little network that I work with that we're we buy from each other or we'll trade or whatever, if we're wanting, something that the other one has. So that's one of the things I would suggest to people that's very important is to get out there and spend a lot of time on the phone cultivating friendships with as many people in the business as possible, because it's, they're going to be able to help you in the future.
Yeah, it is nice having people that you can rely on, hit them up on an email. Hey, what do you think about this? Or, what's this look like to you? And having that input is very important. They've been there and they've done that. So, you don't have to go through the trials and tribulations, basically that you guys went through figuring it out. And, that's where we come in. We can be grateful for it.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, one of my friends, Jeremy Stone, we were we got in the business about the same time, in the mid-'90s, and we early on started talking on the phone, and we did some deals together, especially whenever I was working with BOAs a lot, and we've just been great friends ever since then, and talked on the phone and kind of exchanged ideas as far as where we think the market's going, and just try to get an advantage by using each other's knowledge. Now he and I have kind of split paths as far as he's really hardcore BOAs and I went to just ball pythons, and that makes it a little bit easier for us to work together as well, because there's really not much competition there at all with either one of us.
Yeah, but it must feel nice knowing that you have Jeremy Stone working with some of your BOAs over at his place. That's got to say something.
Well, he's not working with my BOAs. He has chosen to focus only on BOAs, and I'm focusing only on ball pythons. And so now mostly what we're talking about is just strategies for opening up new markets in the world, and because I think that's going to be a key to the survival of our industry, especially the morph industry, is getting new markets opened up. Getting just like when Europe started really getting the morph bug and started buying so much stuff, and then some of these other countries now that we're working to open and working to really get the word out about what we do, because a lot of people don't. We take it for granted, that about the ball game, but there's probably the majority of the world's never heard about it. Never, they think, oh, I like snakes and I'd like to keep snakes, but they don't realize that there's a way out there that you can make a nice living doing what you love to do. And so I've been kind of trying to spread that and get it out as much as possible.
Now, how big of a collection do you have to do, would you say, to have like a, successful business? I know it's going to depend on what you have in that stock, but like you said, you expanded to make more numbers to fill in where you couldn't, make those high dollar sales like back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole thing works as big or as small as you want. I mean, you could have a couple racks in a spare bedroom, or even a single rack in your bedroom, and just make extra money. Or you could just the bigger you expand your collection, the more money you're going to make. And I think it just depends on a lot of factors, how much time that you're able to devote to it. That's probably one of the key things is I've seen some guys kind of expand beyond their capacity to take care of their animals and of their the babies they produce. And then the other thing is that I think people sometimes don't consider the fact that they're going to need to sell those babies. So you need to spend as much time developing a market, developing a customer base so that you'll have a customer for every baby you produce. I think one of the problems we're seeing now is people are producing a lot of babies, but then they haven't they've kind of neglected the customer base side, and so now really their only outlet is one of the classified websites or whatever, where and then you get into a deal where they start thinking the best way to market their animals is to keep dropping the price every couple weeks, and I think that's that hurts us all, and it makes them look bad, and it just is not a good marketing strategy. I think that they'd be better off if they would just work to get customers, spend time on the phone talking to customers, and then sell their animals that way.
What have you found the best way to build up your name and market yourself over the years?
Probably several different things. One thing that's just free is just getting out on the forums and posting a picture of this or this baby or that baby, something. Everybody that produces a few animals every year that are just really standout animals and really exceptional for that morph. And I think if they would get on the forums and post a picture of it, and not saying, hey guys, you want to buy this snake from me, just saying, hey, look at this snake, and then it causes people to notice you if you make a lot of posts on those forums. And then I think reptile shows are certainly one of the best ways to network and to get out there and show people what you've done, and I think that's also a really good way to do it. I think probably my least favorite way is just straight up classified advertisements. It's I don't know. It's just not my deal. I would have been resistant to get out there and post a lot of classified ads unless I've been asked to do it before, to help a site along or whatever, and I've done it at those times. But most of the time I just sell my animals to people that are already established customers with me. We do a lot of wholesale in bulk, where I'll sell to distributors that will, resell. And they may get on some of the classified sites and post some of those babies for sale, but most of what we do is just either through our website, which has been, our website is very productive for selling animals. That's probably where the vast majority of my animals are sold. Probably because one of the reasons I think our site is so successful is we are one of the few that takes individual pictures of every animal. So you can just go on there and look at an animal, and you're actually buying that animal. That's the one you receive the next day if you use the shopping cart on the site.
Yeah, you got a top-of-the-line photo facility over there. I saw there in one of the videos how you had it set up. It was very nice.
I think photography definitely is also extremely important. I mean, if I decided a long time ago that I needed to learn how to take the best picture I possibly could take, and I had a lot of help setting all that up and learning it. A lot of people in the reptile world know Steve Gooch. He's a professional photographer, works for the Daily Oklahoman, the local newspaper. And he's into snakes, and he's a friend of mine. And he came over and kind of showed me a few things about how to take a good picture, how to light a good picture, and he definitely was instrumental in helping us do that.
Also, my wife Christina drives her crazy when I take pictures. So I'll have a corner of something, and how she explains it, it has to be a perfect photograph, not just a picture.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that when the internet came along, I mean, we were producing and selling animals really in the infancy of sites like King Snake, and at the time when they first launched their classifieds, it was basically almost every single ad just had a word description of each animal and that somebody was wanting to sell, and pictures were just really unheard of. Sometimes on the ad it would say email for pictures, but it would, you never saw a picture on the ad. And I think the only way that you could do it in those days was if you had a website and you had the photo hosted through your website, you could post a link to the image and it would show up on King Snake. And I started doing that, and that kind of was the way that I set myself apart early on, was having pictures of snakes. And I recognized the fact that when the internet was going to be one of the main marketing tools for selling reptiles, that in reality somebody is buying a picture of a snake, because that's what your competition is. All these pictures of snakes, and if you have a better picture, then chances are you're going to win out if a customer is kind of on the fence between you and somebody else.
Awesome. Well, you hit a few world firsts in your past. The world's first nuclear blast, matter of fact, the Fire Pin Pastel Butter. So how many world's firsts have you hit over there at Constrictors Unlimited, pythonregis.com?
I don't know. I don't really keep up with that very much. When I think something's a first, I'll usually tell World of Ball Pythons about it, but I'm not real sure how many firsts that I've done. I probably would say that my career, our business has been geared more around finding things that are popular rather than things that are rather than me trying to cut new ground. A lot of times, if something ends up, somebody produces something and they just hit it out of the park with it, we'll go in there and try to produce a lot of those so that we make them more available to people. Certainly Nerd has me buried on World's First, and there's probably a lot of other guys that do, but I'm pretty proud of like the Inchy Champagne. I think was a good one, and in 2011, that production year, we had a lot of cool animals that we produced. Then 2012, I think, was a little bit kind of an off year, but this year's going to be. I have a lot of things that I'm real excited about, seeing how the genes are going to interact, and hopefully we'll have a couple more worlds first, and we'll have something that will blow you away.
Well, just like the world's first Fire Collider, I mean, those three genes right there, can't lose with those. Right. Yeah, and that's another thing that a lot of people don't think about is when we're producing when we're combining genes, a lot of times we're thinking about making a 4, 5, 6 gene male that for our own breeding purposes that's going to have a lot of byproduct as far as when you breed that male, you're going to produce a lot of really in demand combos as well as because you're not going to hit the 5 gener very often, but you're going to hit those doubles really often, doubles and triples. So I think that's one thing that we look at. And I think probably the biggest thing that in the ball python world, the biggest gene come out in a long time
will be this atomic gene when we start releasing it, because what it is basically all the genes that we call codominant, that name kind of stuck, and I think it's in the process of being corrected. But those are really incomplete dominance is the real correct term. And when you layer those genes on top of each other, they start to get. I noticed after you get 5, 6, 7 genes on top of each other, it starts washing out, and just it gets less impressive, once you start having a lot of genes in one animal. What this atomic gene does, it's a simple recessive, but what it seems to do is it seems to change the way those incomplete dominant genes express themselves, and it makes them express themselves in a true codominant way, so that you have all of the elements that are involved in like the atomic queen bee that we did this year. We had, you could see the pastel and the lesser and the spider and then some areas on the snake where you had a 2-gene combo. It had a bumblebee in this section, and I think that was a really. I think that gene is going to be really important for that, because it's going to kind of give us a reset, instead of having just a snake that, I can't really tell that it has all the genes that I think it has, or that, I don't really care that it has all the genes that I think it has, because it's not that much better. I think it's going to change that, because it's, now going to give us this cool patchwork type snake that's going to, be really, really interesting.
So the patches are of the genes itself. It depends on, of course, on the animal, what shows up on it.
Yeah, the best way to describe it is if you look up codominant or incomplete dominant on Google and just look at the wiki, the description on that, I think it's easier to understand as flowers. In an incomplete dominant, you breed if you put a red flower and a white flower together, you make a pink flower, and that's basically what we have now with all of these genes that we call codominant. We've got, you put a pastel and a spider together, and you get a bumblebee. You get a blending of those 2 genes. With a true codominant, you would have a red flower and a white flower, and you would have a white flower with red splotches, or a red flower with white splotches. Each gene would express itself equally on the same flower. So this atomic gene, that's basically what it does, is it causes these genes that are incomplete dominants to behave like true codominant. And I think that's when people realize how important that is, how exciting it is, and how much it's going to reset everything. I think that's it's going to be definitely one of the biggest genes to come out. I mean, not by itself, just for using it as a tool for what you can do with it.
Atomic gene. Game changer, check. That was the next one on the list. So you're right on par for course here.
Yeah, and like I said, I did want to clarify that it's a recessive gene itself. So it's also that's kind of why it's taking longer to get it for us to develop that project, because we've obviously now we have to raise tests and then breed those tests back.
Yeah, I know when we first spoke, you're like, we're trying to figure it out. I was asking if you've gotten to the bottom of it yet. You're like, we should know by the end of this season. So it must be you guys figured that out.
Yeah, we did this year, and then now in 2013 we're going to be working to further exploit it, show more about what it can do.
What can we expect the atomic gene to be paired with over there at Constrictors Unlimited?
We're going to do a few more things this year. I mean, let me see if there's anything new. Probably not. I mean, we're going to have hopefully a couple more eclipses. Right now, what we're kind of focusing on is just breeding atomic to atomic to get more homozygous animals to work with, because at the present time I only have one homozygous male, so that is going to slow me down quite a bit if I don't change that. So instead of me trying to, I guess it's going to be not possible for me to fully exploit it until I get more males to work with. You know, I have several females that I'm raising. I mean, most of the eclipses have been females. I have one atomic spider female, one atomic spider male, and then several normal atomic homozygous girls, and then the rest are just hets. So it's still in its infancy. You know, it's not going to be. People have been kind of beating down my door trying to ask me about when I'm going to be ready to sell some, and I just don't know yet. I don't know if. I guess it'll depend on if this year I produce more males, because obviously that's what most people want is a male. So I don't know if there's going to be any available this year or maybe not till next year.
Well, that's got to be a great position to be in, having everybody wanting what you are trying to make. So that's kudos to you.
Yeah, it's great to be in that position for sure.
All right, well, you're still on par with this interview, because the Eclipse was the next one on the list, and it does just that, eclipse all other morphs. It's pretty impressive. Morph, why don't you explain that one for us?
Well, the Eclipse uses the atomic gene, and that was the first snake that we produced in that complex. I mean, we produced the same year as the first Eclipse. We produced the atomic spider, and we produced two of those, an atomic male and atomic female. But when we first saw that effect with the split head, we thought that we were, you know, I just assumed that it was a fluke, that we would never have another split head animal again where it showed, you know, one morph. I mean, that animal has super fire on one side of its head, and then basically fiery normal type on the other side of the head. And talking with some geneticists and some people that know more than I do about how baby snakes form, they said that you know, the two halves, a baby snake forms kind of separately in its as far as the cell division, and that's a reason for why. I mean, it's separately right down the you know, the center line, the spine of the snake, and that's why we see on those eclipses, we'll see a completely different snake on one half than on the other. You know, sometimes it doesn't have any patterns. Sometimes it, you know, it's got different patchworks of the different genes on one side than it does on the other, and then it's got varies from a really distinct dividing line down the center of the head to to more of a subtle head stripe, but all of them have that kind of split on the head. So that was a big. When I first produced that animal, I was just blown away by it, and I remember posting pictures, and people were saying, "Oh, nice paradox," and all that. And we produce about, I don't know, I would say between 3 and 5 paradox animals every year, and so I never really give them much thought, you know, because they've never been proven genetic. But when we produced that eclipse, I knew that it wasn't a paradox because I knew that what gene I was working with, I knew that we were onto something here and that I was going to be able to reproduce it. But I just didn't know that I was going to be able to reproduce those split head animals. And now we've produced 4 of them that have perfect head stripe. Split. One side of the animal is different from the other side. So that's another just exciting element to that whole gene and the whole deal.
So what about the eclipse trifecta? What's the deal there?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Okay. What about the eclipse trifecta? What's the deal there?
Oh, I just posted a picture of 3 different animals that were eclipsy type animals. I think one of them actually, the atomic sugar, I believe it is, maybe atomic pastel sugar. Its head split is so subtle, it's very difficult to even see, unless you just get really right up on the animal. But that was a picture I posted, at the time whenever I had produced 3 of them, and then we've produced the 4th. So I was kind of just showing everybody that it was reproducible.
How happy were you to reproduce that? I mean, everybody wants a paradox snake, and if you're able to produce one, then you are, again, sitting in a great position.
Yeah, I mean, this is I know that the bigger breeders, the guys that have been doing this for a long time, they all recognize how important this is, how big it is, and that's why I'm getting a lot of phone calls asking me about getting in on the project. We're predictively produce paradox animals going both ways. I mean, you can produce animals that express some of the homozygous. You can produce some that have produced the normal and the underlying genes. With just for instance, with atomic and fire, you can produce some paradox effects that show superfire, even though you don't have fire on both sides. And the same thing with, we haven't done albino yet, but I was talking to Kevin McCurley the other day, and he was saying you need to get that into albino because he was predicting that we would see the same effects with albino. We would be able to produce animals that were half albino, half not, using this gene.
Yeah, that'd be something, man. I can't wait to see what you guys do with that gene.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to see where the future takes us on it.
Awesome, man. So how about that striated? That looks like a darker super stripe or something's going on there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that animal?
The striated, I'm not really sure what's going on with that animal. I produced it several years ago. I can't even remember what year now, maybe 2005. But it was from a super fire to fire breeding. Now the way we produce our, if we're just trying to produce a lot of super fires, for instance, we will run 10 or 15 males through a group of fire girls. So I don't really know which one is the father of that animal. So if the I'm hesitant to think that it has anything to do with the atomic gene. I think at first I thought it was just that it was something similar to the super stripe, but just on the fire, part of the fire complex. But I bred a super fire male to her the next year because I wanted to see whether I could. I wanted to make sure that I got the fire combined with the striate, whatever gene is causing the striated condition. but I didn't. That production rehatched all superfires, so we weren't able to tell if there was anything different going on. So I don't know if at this point if it's. I guess the theory that makes the most sense to me at this point, although I don't have much data to go on, is just that maybe that she's a superfire that is not a white snake, because she has superfire eyes, and she's obviously very different. But then last year she didn't produce, and now this year I don't think she's on. That deal's really taken me a long time to figure out. Last year I bred her to a clown because I thought I want to just see what all the normal looking offspring look like, and then see if I can make any determinations on that. And then she didn't produce, and so then this year we bred her to Butter Inchy, just because I thought I'd like to get some Inchy combos in with whatever it is, and surely I'll be able to tell those apart anyway. And then I don't know. She produced the year she produced 3 years ago. She was really late. Like I think her lay date was late August.
All right. Well, you also produced the pumpkin champs. Those have some amazing coloration on them. So is that pumpkin obviously have some to turn the orange up on a ball python?
Yeah, and I know that some people have been kind of skeptical about that or whatever about having another line, but one thing that people should consider is the fact that you don't see me going out there and saying I've got another line of this or I've got another line of that. But like for instance, I had 5 separate lines from the first fires. I had the Eric Davies line, and then I had several lines that I had gotten from Africa because after I got the Eric Davies, I was pretty much gathering up any animals I could find that looked like fires to try to kind of control that a little bit. And all I did was quietly call them A, B, C, D, E, and didn't I never marketed them as my own line. And I know a lot of people have come out with wild caught fire lines since then and have marketed them as their own line, which is fine. If as far as my thinking goes, if the genes do the same things, if the homozygous is the same, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, but early on, I was telling people, especially before they had proven that theirs made a black-eyed leucistic, I was telling people that they couldn't call it a fire until they had proven that it would make a black-eyed leucistic. So, that some of the early lines that made sense, but now there are some other lines out there that have shown to do all the same things that are kind of being marketed as something different, and I don't know, that seems a little strange unless somebody can put their finger on something that it is markedly different about how that gene reacts. With the champagne, the pumpkin champagne, the first animals we got were from this line, from the pumpkin champagne line, and then the year after I produced from that line, I had a lot of people telling me that they were different. When I first received them, I thought maybe that there was a mistake made, and I ended up with mimosas or something because they were really orange and purple, and I was sending pictures to my friends and saying, "Have you ever seen a champagne that looks like this?" And they were saying no, that Champagne got its name Champagne because it's kind of a tan-colored snake. And then I was hesitant to jump out there and say something different. And then when I acquired a Champagne Lesser from Dave Green the next year, and I bred that animal, and that was last year in 2012 that I started producing from the original Champagne line, and I started producing these really different looking snakes that were, more tan colored and much different from what I had been producing, much different from what had got me so excited about Champagne in the first place. Even the Champagne Inchi that I produced in 2011 was with the pumpkin line, and it was a really spectacular animal. It had these kind of purples on it and yellow, real bright animal, good, nice combo. And then later on, when I would see pictures of people doing that same breeding, it was more, kind of tan and dark brown and in those color tones, and just didn't do as much for me. I mean, it might have been, might have been exciting to them, but it wasn't something that I wanted to produce. And then I started, comparing those animals side by side, and that's when we made the decision to separate it out and call it a different line, because it's just it's so different. I had some people that were a little skeptical. There's kind of friendly rivalry in this business, and I had some people in Daytona come up to me and say, "I've produced orange champagnes before," and I said, "Go get the orangest one you've ever produced and bring it over here." And then I had him bring it over there. I'm not going to say who it was, but he brought it over there, and I pulled out a couple of my pumpkins, and we held them side by side, and he said, "Okay then," and just walked away. I mean, he was like, it was just like no comparison. I mean, very, very different animal, really, really orange, and I like it. I'm happy that I'm working with it. I think that if you're gonna only have one Champagne line to work with, this is definitely the one to work with. It held its value a lot better. The regular Champagne has really seen a ridiculous price drop this year. I don't know why, but I've never seen a gene have that big a drop in a single season before. But for some reason, like everybody at once decided that they didn't like it. But we're still selling the pumpkin line really well and getting good money for them. So if you're wanting to work with Champagne line, that's the one, I think.
Well, then you just look at the pastel pumpkin Champagne. Love those guys.
Yeah, and then I think like I said before, the Inchi Champagne, and then unfortunately the fire pumpkin, those are really spectacular animals. A lot nicer, I think, than the fire champagnes with the brown line. I think those are just kind of a lighter tan animal rather than this kind of sherbet orange color. Plus, I think that with the pumpkin name, we've started calling that combo jack-o'-lantern, because I think that's kind of cool, that put fire with pumpkin and has a cool marketing aspect to it. So, unfortunately, this year in 2012, most of our production, or a good portion of our production, was from the other line, because we were trying to do combos with that involved lesser as well, and I didn't know any different. So I was doing most of my big combo breeding with the original line. So I'm anxious to kind of redo some of those breedings with the pumpkin line and see what I can do.
Yeah, now you can tell the difference, the night and day, right there for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So why don't you tell us about the Cassandra Mocha to the special?
Those are projects that I think are really awesome, but I'm way behind on them. I mean, they're things that I think that crystal is really a great animal. That Cassandra is a great animal. I actually got a Cassandra from Amir this year, and I think Mocha is definitely going to be something that we're going to work to exploit in the future. But I'm probably not the guy to tell you too much about it because I really haven't worked too much with it. That it's something that is somebody else's specialty.
All right. So what is the Triple Champ? It looks like it's got a bunch of pattern on that. Does that have some NG on it?
Are you talking about the picture from Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I don't think that I think that we thought it was a triple when it first came out, but then later on as we did more breedings, we produced the triple that we thought we were hitting there, and again that was part of the before I had unraveled the deal with the pumpkin, so I was real sure what I was looking at on some of that stuff. So that's one of those things that didn't really pan out to be what I thought it was.
All right, when you mix the Champ with the Fire, you get the black eyes with the red pupil. That's pretty outstanding.
Yeah, it's cool that we have a way to tell whether we are actually in there. And the unfortunate thing, and one of the things that's probably been kind of a bummer for most people with the champagne combos is that either a washed out snake or a white snake, and it made it. I think once we start throwing Inchi in there, it's possible that we're gonna bring our pattern back. I mean, we did see that with the pastel, so I mean, there's still hope for producing some combos that blow you away with it. But I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed with the fact that when you have champagne and lesser, you end up with basically a white snake, so that's kind of a dead end. And then pastels. Pastel is a little bit different because it does have a lot of cool yellow coloration. So I think that I think the key to any champagne project is going to be obviously Inchi, seeing if we can put pattern back in. And I think that's Inchi is going to be one of the reasons that it's gotten so crazy is because I think it might be the key to seeing us get pattern back on like some of the spider pied.
All right, Mike, so what's your take on the war on pet owners we have here in the States? I mean, every time we look to the left, every time we look to the right, we got some legislation coming down on us. It's constantly, it seems.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think it's horrible. I mean, it's just it's our own little segment of the war on freedom that's happening throughout our government. I mean, it's unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize how much elections can have consequences, and when you've got people that are in office that are advocating laws that restrict people's freedoms in areas that you agree with, the chances are they're going to be doing the same thing, against you at some point. I mean, so I think it's really bad. Obviously, how do we fight it? I don't know. Other than to support USARC and PJAC have a lobbyist at least get up there and tell our side of the story. I think that Kevin's the organization that he's put together, Grain, is also another good way for people to participate to at least get education out there, because the facts are on our side. The only way that they can pass these things, this legislation, is if they lie. Just like with the Burmese problem, that was clearly a Florida issue, and one that the state of Florida had dealt with well. And the USGS basically had to make a map showing that Burmese pythons would creep all the way up into Oklahoma, according to their map, which is completely ridiculous. Our winters are way too cold for any python species to survive, and they had to do that so that they could get federal funding. If they make it a federal issue, then now those guys can get federal grant money to study the eradication of Burmese pythons. And I think, unfortunately, that's really what we're working against here. We're working against HSUS, who has an agenda of that they don't want anybody to keep any animal for any reason, and they have their agenda, and then we have some in the academic community that just want to get grant money, and so the further they can expand the idea of invasive species, then the more they can get money from the federal government to study how do we combat those invasive species, and if they're not invasive yet, how can we study how we can keep them from becoming invasive? So it's kind of endless. It's kind of an endless stream of money coming to the academic community. So unfortunately, there's just a lot of corruption involved nowadays that 10, 20 years ago, I think people in the scientific community would have been very hesitant, because they'd be worried about their reputations. They'd be very hesitant to just outright lie about data so that they could get grant money. I think that's kind of went out the window with a lot of the academic community on a bunch of different levels, where now it's just all about say whatever you need to say to get the money. You with me? Did I drop that call? If you can't hear me, then we'll see if you can hear me in a minute. Okay, now I've got a good signal again. You with me, Jason?
I was muted because my dog was barking. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, no problem. But I think it's a terrible thing that we're having to deal with. I think that we should have kind of got out ahead of it way back, 5-6 years ago when Florida was first talking about big snakes and talking about making, they were sort of negotiating with us and saying what could both sides live with, and we were giving them that microchip system. And at the time, I was saying, if you keep feeding that monster, it's never going to be satisfied. So if we give them microchipping, then tomorrow they'll be back for just a full ban. And sure enough, it didn't last very long that they were satisfied with that microchip registration system. Now they're they added Burmese to the Lacey Act, and they're talking about adding the other 9 to the Lacey Act. And then I heard some new thing about that they're proposing some kind of a whitelist thing where they would just just say the species of animals that are okay, and then everything else would be considered potentially invasive, so it would just basically fall into the Lacey Act where you can't cross state lines. So I think that may be a strategy on their side to, really go for a lot and then get us to say, okay, we'll give you that 9 that you're wanting, and just give up, because that's always a good negotiating strategy, to go for way more and then make the other side feel like they won by giving you what you wanted in the first place. That could be what's going on. I think that will be really devastating if they get the rest of the 9 on there. But I don't know. I don't know what we can do about it. I mean, it's just like I said, the government at every level is trying to encroach on our freedoms and take them away from us.
Going back to the corrupt aspect of the system, it seems that we've lost our moral compass.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is a good way to explain what's happened in the academic community, because I think there was definitely a time when people valued their reputations, and they were very hesitant to put their name on studies that weren't peer reviewed and that didn't have really solid facts on their side. And now I think, like I said, I know it sounds really cynical, like a cynical view, but as much as we've seen, I mean, that's the only conclusion we can come to is that they have decided to sell their soul basically for big grant money.
Yep, they got their hand-picked people that will write up these studies that don't mean squat.
Yeah, I mean, they're USR through the Freedom of Information, found emails where they're talking about it, well, we have to be careful about how much we say in email, and they're coordinating basically together. The government and the U.S. Geological Survey, and they're talking about how they can basically achieve their goals together. And then you have a media that doesn't bother to do any investigating or any they don't look into anything on their own. They just completely repeat the whatever the state line is, and we've got the perfect system for our freedoms to be taken away and our money to be extracted from us.
It's like they're setting us up for failure. It's like the rug's going to be pulled out from under us.
Yeah. Now, I don't think I think that while there's been a lot of bad things that have happened, and there's a lot more work to do, I don't want people to think that that all hope is lost. I think that we definitely have some good organizations on our side, and we have we're making some real progress as far as fighting with facts. I mean, being able to have these the ones that care to hear the truth, hearing the truth and understanding the truth, and so I think there's a good chance that we're going to be able to be successful fighting a lot of this stuff. But it's something that definitely everybody out there that's in this business should be contributing some money, because at the bottom line, that's what it takes to fight this stuff. Is it takes money, and I think definitely they should go over to USARC and donate, even if they can only donate $10. I mean, every little bit helps, and it all adds up.
You're right, and people are waking up to the corruption. So I hope you are right that we can beat them. I feel we can if everybody plays their part and helps out, and like you said, supports their organization of choice. Support somebody. Just make a difference.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Mike. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out. Go have fun skiing. Are you going to be skiing or snowboarding?
A little bit of both. And,
the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I've got both with me, and so when I get tired of beating myself up on the snowboard, then
I wasn't quick enough. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You're getting ready to cut out again, so you were saying about busting your butt in one and switching to another, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I just said that I plan on doing both snowboarding and skiing, and when I get tired of beating myself up on the snowboard, then I'll put on the skis and take it easy.
All right, be safe out there and have fun with the fam.
Okay, thanks, Jason. I had a great time, and I appreciate you having me on.
All right, thanks. We appreciate it, Mike. Make sure to check out Mike's website at pythonregis.com. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of Her Per Parade. Make sure you check out herperparade.com. That's where we're streaming all our past episodes, and you can see all the archives over there, the forum, the classifieds, and everything. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Her Per Parade, out.
Hey, everybody. You're listening to Vin Russo at Her Per Parade with Jason Rossi. Stay tuned for more great stuff.